We saw news this week that the Astros have spoken with Milwaukee's David Stearns. We also know, famously, that the New York Mets are also very interested. We know Stephen Cohen's pockets are deeper than Jim Crane's are, or maybe at least a little looser with his spending. The Mets need his expertise over the next couple of years as they try to retool to be competitive again. So I don't know that the Astros are going to win a bidding war. They're going to have to maybe sell Stearns on being the more attractive landing spot. What are the implications of the Astros speaking with David Stearns?
I find it very curious. Wild card, happy wife, happy life. David Stearns met the future and present Mrs. Stearns. She's Houstonian. So unless it's a family choice to come down here, he grew up a Mets fan. Right? The Mets have won diddly since 1986. You have Daddy Warbucks with the blank check. It would be kind of an odd choice to me, other than family considerations, for Stearns to pick the Astros over the Mets at this point. And frankly, you'd be cutting off Dana Brown at the knees. Right? Part of why Dana Brown took this job, number one, it's a Major League Baseball general manager's gig that he was offered, but that, hey, there is no president of baseball operations. I'm the owner's right-hand man. Well, you're not if David Stearns is brought in to be the president of baseball operations. So, unless Jim Crane just wants to kind of stick it to the Mets that you're not going to get this guy because I want him and he'd rather come back here. If you're Jim Crane, why do you want to pay multi-million dollars to an executive when you seem to be in pretty good organizational ship shape as it is?
To me, it's the disaster of the Bagwell offseason and Jose Abreu, how bad that worked out. So many of the moves just did not pan out for them this year. I think he wants to have a little insurance in that case. And the other thing is, Stearns would be going up to a baseball operations job with both teams because Billy Epler is still there as the GM for the Mets. You have Dana Brown as the GM in Houston. So either way, he'd be in a position kind of above those guys, more of a true front office, type of role. So I could understand why both teams would be interested, but they both have GMs in place. But I'd rather go to the team that keeps going to the playoffs and ALCS and the World Series every year. And he was here before. So to come full circle and then be a part of keeping this dynasty together and stretching it out, like that would be very appealing to me. Of course, the money in New York, him being from there, I get all that. But I understand why he'd have interest in the Astros. And we've heard this stuff about Crane having interest in him for quite some time now. And for them to already have been in contact reportedly with him, because it said that after the trade deadline, he was allowed to start talking to other teams. And remember, before this year, when we heard these rumors, he said, I'm maybe tired of doing this grind, and maybe I want to spend some more time with my family. Well, recently, all the reports are that he feels re-energized having a smaller role this past year, and he's looking to get back in it. So I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do, but I would love for him to come back here to the Astros. And I think Dana Brown, there's nothing wrong with having another great baseball guy to bounce ideas off of. I don't see the downside there.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The Astros need as many big brains as possible right now because they've got a thin farm system. They've got to figure out how to re-sign some of these guys that are going to be up in a couple of years, or if not re-signing them, how do you replace them? They've got some big decisions that are looming for them. I just wonder, do you guys think there's any sort of, it's been less than a year with Dana Brown at the helm, any odd possibility that maybe this is sort of any sort of implication on maybe what Jim Crane thinks of Dana Brown in the GM position? Do you think maybe he's doesn't trust him as much to see the overall big picture stuff, and maybe wants to have him, have a more defined GM role? Or do you think he just, I want as many smart people as possible in the organization, and Stearns knows our organization?
I will cite the alternate golden rule. You have the most gold, you make the rules. James Click didn't do anything to deserve to get shoved out of the job, but if you don't get along with your boss, or your boss gets a wild hair to want to go in another direction, well, you're going to be out. Remember, James Click got Yiner Diaz for Miles Straw, and include Phil Maton in there as well, and the other bullpen work that he did. Dana Brown, I think, would be really bummed out if David Stearns was brought in above him. But hey, it's a big world. You got a long-term contract, so you can look for another job or continue to collect your money and work with your new immediate superior. But this is a Jim Crane level decision, just as if the Astros are going to try to sign Altuve for life or consider extending Bregman this offseason before both can become free agents after 2024. You'll consult with whoever is in your baseball cabinet, your brain trust, but those are macro level Jim Crane decisions. So who he wants to talk with, we just hope that this offseason, the most persuasive voices are not Reggie Jackson and Jeff Bagwell. And remember, that struggle of an offseason, Dana Brown wasn't hired yet. Right? Dana Brown has not had an offseason yet as the general manager.
That's true. And I think it's a deal where the Montero contract, you're kind of stuck with that for a while. The Abreu contract, you're stuck with that for a while. So they saw Dana Brown as being really good at scouting, and maybe that is the role they thought would be good for him to go along with Stearns here, to come draft, build up this pipeline, get us some good young players in here. And then Stearns was the assistant GM before, so he's seen the way Jeff Luhnow has built teams, and he knows that kind of stuff. So maybe he's just trying to recapture some of that magic from back in the day with Jeff Luhnow. And Dana Brown, at the end of the day, you're still the GM. You're still going to be running the drafts. I understand it's always risky when somebody else comes in, but if you're Jim Crane, to Charlie's point, it's my team. If I think this is the best thing for the team, you're under contract. You can't just go work for another baseball team, Dana Brown. You work for us. So I don't have a problem with it.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
That's going to be it for another episode of Stone Cold Stros. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. Charlie, Josh, and I will catch you next week. But if you don't have to wait that long to get your Houston sports fix, because all you have to do is subscribe to Sports Over Houston on YouTube. John Granado, Lance Zerline, Josh Jordan have you covered there. And remember, if you're driving around in Houston, it's ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 on the FM dial. Thanks to Jack Brain for producing late tonight. And thanks for everyone for listening. And until next time, go Stros.